A dream is never too big until someone laughs at it. It was just another morning at Riverdale High School. Students walked through the hallway, some sleepy, others laughing with their friends. But one boy walked differently. His name was Arman. Quiet, serious, and always with a book in hand. Arman didn't talk much, but his eyes were full of dreams. He had one big dream: to get into Harvard University. While other students talked about parties or games, Arman read about scholarships, entrance exams, and success stories. He believed that no matter how poor his family was or how small his school seemed, he could make it, if he worked hard enough. His classmates often whispered behind his back, "Harvard. Him. That's funny. He doesn't even wear new shoes." But Arman never cared. He had a reason. His mother worked as a cleaner in 5 houses. His father passed away when he was only 10. Arman had promised his mother that one day she wouldn't have to clean floors anymore. He would make her proud. And so he kept studying. One day, during English class, the teacher asked all students to stand up and share what they wanted to become in the future. Students gave usual answers. "I want to be a footballer. I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be a model." Then it was Arman's turn. He stood up slowly, holding a notebook in his hand. "I want to go to Harvard University," he said. There was silence in the room. And then, laughter. Not just from the students, but from the teacher too. Mrs. Sharma, the English teacher, gave a loud laugh. "Harvard," she said, holding her stomach like she was in pain from laughing. "Do you even know where that is, Arman?" The students laughed harder. Arman stood still. He didn't blink. But inside, something was breaking. "You should aim for something realistic," Mrs. Sharma said with a fake smile. "Maybe a local college. Harvard is for brilliant kids from rich families." The class laughed again. A few even clapped. Arman quietly sat down. His heart was racing. His hands were cold, but he didn't cry. He just kept looking at the notebook in his hand. On the first page, written in neat handwriting, were these words: "One day, I'll get there, and everyone who laughed will clap." That night, Arman didn't eat dinner. He sat on the roof of his house, staring at the stars. His mother came up with a cup of tea. "I heard what happened in school," she said gently. "It's okay, Annie," he replied, forcing a smile. "You still want to go to Harvard?" she asked. "Yes," he said, now more than ever. And with that, Arman made a decision. He would study harder than ever before. Not to prove the teacher wrong, but to prove himself right. He began waking up at 4 a.m. every day. He studied before school, after school, and even during lunch breaks. He applied for online scholarships. He watched free lectures. He borrowed books. He even learned how to write the perfect college essay. While others partied, Arman practiced. But the whispers didn't stop. "Still dreaming of Harvard? Maybe he's crazy. Poor guy doesn't know his limits." What no one knew was that Arman was already preparing for the entrance exam. He had registered for it secretly. The date was 3 months away. And then, something happened. One day, during morning assembly, the principal made an announcement. "We are proud to share that one of our students has scored in the top 1% nationally in the SAT practice exam conducted by the National Board." The students looked at each other, confused. "Please give a big round of applause to Arman Khan." Gasps filled the air. Arman walked to the stage, heart beating loud, but steps steady. Mrs. Sharma, sitting among the teachers, looked like she had swallowed a lemon. The clapping didn't stop. But this was just the beginning. The hallway outside the classroom was silent, but inside Arman's mind, everything was loud. He walked out slowly, each step heavier than the last. Students whispered behind him. Some laughed. Some looked down, pretending they hadn't heard anything. But everyone had heard. His dream, Harvard, had just been crushed in front of the whole class. Arman sat on the school bench, eyes fixed on the ground. His heart was beating fast. His throat was dry. He wanted to cry, but he didn't. He just sat, quietly, like a stone. A few minutes later, his best friend Bilal came and sat next to him. "Are you okay?" Bilal asked softly. Armin didn't answer. "You don't have to listen to him," Bilal continued. "He's just a teacher. He doesn't decide your future." Armin turned his head slowly. "But he made everyone laugh at me, Bilal. Like my dream was a joke." Bilal placed his hand on Armin's shoulder. "Then prove him wrong." Armin looked up. That sentence hit him hard. Prove him wrong. That night, Armin didn't sleep. He lay on his bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about every word the teacher had said. "Harvard, you can't even pass my subject. You don't belong there. You're dreaming too big." He repeated the words again and again, until they didn't hurt anymore. They lit something inside him. A fire. The next morning, Armin got up earlier than usual. He stood in front of the mirror, eyes sharp, voice steady. "I'll show them. I will not stop." He made a plan. Every day after school, while other kids played games or watched TV, Armin went to the library. He borrowed books on science, English, history, even psychology. He watched Harvard lectures online. He started practicing writing essays, solving past SAT papers, and studying from sunrise to late night. Days turned into weeks. At school, students noticed a change. The boy who once sat quietly now sat in the front row. He asked questions. He gave answers. He even helped others after class. Some students teased him at first, but slowly that teasing stopped. His grades started improving, slowly but surely. But one person still didn't change, Mr. Qureshi. Every time Armin raised his hand in class, Mr. Qureshi ignored him. If he answered a question correctly, the teacher would find a mistake just to embarrass him. But this time, Armin didn't break. Every insult made him stronger. One day, after school, Mr. Ferris, the librarian, walked up to him. "You've been coming here every day for the past month," he said, smiling. "What are you chasing, young man?" Armin looked up from his book and said, "A dream that everyone thinks is impossible." The librarian chuckled. "That's the best kind. Need help?" From that day, Mr. Ferris became his silent supporter, sliding him books, sharing tips, and pushing him to think deeper. Meanwhile, at home, things were not easy. Armin's father was a bus driver. His mother worked as a maid. They didn't fully understand what Harvard was, but they saw the light in their son's eyes. They saw how hard he was working. "Just promise me one thing," his mother once said while serving him dinner. "No matter what happens, don't give up." "I won't," he said, smiling. "I can't." One night, while filling out the Harvard application form, Armin paused. He stared at the screen. "Describe a challenge you faced and how you overcame it." He started typing. "I was laughed at by my own teacher in front of my class. He said I could never reach Harvard. That moment broke something inside me. But it also built something stronger. A fire. I used that pain as fuel. I read, I studied. I worked day and night to become better. I'm not the smartest. I'm not the richest. But I am the most determined." He hit submit. And then he waited. Weeks passed. One morning, while checking his email before school, he saw it. A new message. "Congratulations, Armin." His heart stopped. He clicked it open, hands shaking. "We are pleased to offer you admission to Harvard University." Tears rolled down his cheeks. He had done it. But the story wasn't over. What would happen when the teacher who humiliated him found out? Would the school celebrate or stay silent? Part 3 would show the moment that changed everything again. Because this time, the world had to know. The boy they laughed at was now going to Harvard. Armin stared at the screen, his eyes full of tears. He couldn't believe it. Harvard had accepted him. The boy who was mocked, laughed at, and told he wasn't good enough, had done the impossible. His hands trembled as he rushed out of his room, shouting, "Ami, Abu, come quickly." His parents came running, worried. "What happened?" his mother asked. Armin turned the screen toward them. "I got in. I'm going to Harvard." For a few seconds, they didn't speak. Then his mother's eyes filled with tears, and his father sat down, stunned. They didn't fully understand what Harvard meant, but they knew it was something big. "Is it really true?" his father asked. Armin nodded. "Yes, Abu, your son is going to America, to one of the best universities in the world." His mother hugged him tightly. "I told you, don't give up." The next day, Armin walked into school like always, but everything felt different now. His shoulders were straight, his head was high, his heart was strong. In his hand was the printed acceptance letter. He didn't plan to show it to anyone, but fate had other plans. During the morning assembly, the principal made a surprise announcement. "Students and teachers, we have something very special to share today. One of our students has made our school proud." Armin froze. Armin Khan has been accepted into Harvard University. The entire ground went silent for a moment. Then came the whispers, then the gasps, and finally, the applause. Everyone looked at him. The same faces that had laughed at him now clapped for him, except one. Mr. Qureshi stood at the side, arms crossed, eyes cold. After the assembly, students crowded around Armin. "Bro, is it real? Yar, you're going to Harvard. That's insane. You really did it, man." Bilal came running and hugged him. "I knew you could do it." But the biggest moment was still waiting. Later that day, during class, Mr. Qureshi called Armin. "Come to the front." The class went quiet. Everyone sensed tension. Armin walked to the front, holding his letter in his hand. Mr. Qureshi looked at him for a long time. Then he said, "So, it's true." "Yes, sir," Armin replied calmly. "I got in." Mr. Qureshi raised an eyebrow. "And what makes you think you'll survive there?" Armin didn't flinch. "Because I survived here, sir." The class gasped. For the first time, Mr. Qureshi had no comeback. "I used to think your words could define me," Armin continued. "But I realized, they don't. You were wrong about me. I do belong there." Silence. Mr. Qureshi looked away. "Go back to your seat," he said quietly. But that wasn't the end. The story spread, first across the school, then the city. News channels picked it up. "Student from humble background makes it to Harvard despite mockery." A reporter came to the school and asked Armin for an interview. Cameras followed him as he walked through the school that once humiliated him. He spoke politely but with strength. "Yes, I was laughed at, even by my teacher, but I turned that pain into power. If you believe in yourself, no one can stop you." The video went viral. Soon, Harvard itself shared his story on their website as an inspiration. The same Mr. Qureshi who once mocked him now had to face questions from the school board. Why did he humiliate a student's dream? Why didn't he encourage him instead? The school apologized publicly. And finally, in a private moment, Mr. Qureshi called Armin to his office. There was no anger, no pride, just silence. "I underestimated you," he said slowly. "I was wrong." Armin didn't smile or gloat. He just nodded and said, "I forgive you, sir. But remember, the next student you laugh at might be another Harvard story." He turned and walked out of the office, leaving behind the man who once tried to break him. Outside, the school had changed. Students looked at him differently now, not with doubt, but with respect. But Armin knew his journey had just begun. Harvard was waiting. A new world, a new battle, a new chapter. Part 4 would show what happens when a boy from a poor home enters the world of elites, and the challenges he faces there. Armin stood at the gate of Harvard University, his heart pounding with excitement and fear. Tall buildings, green lawns, and students from all over the world filled the campus. Everything looked perfect. like a movie. But Armin didn't feel perfect. He felt small. He looked down at his old shoes, the same ones he wore to school back home. His suitcase was secondhand, his clothes simple. Around him, students walked by with branded bags, expensive laptops, and confident smiles. "Am I really supposed to be here?" he whispered to himself. But then he remembered his mother's words before he left. "Beta, the world may be big, but your heart is bigger. Don't forget who you are." So he took a deep breath and stepped inside. His dorm room was small but clean. His roommate, Jason, was from New York. He was friendly, but curious. "Where are you from?" Jason asked. "Pakistan," Armin replied with a smile. Jason raised his eyebrows. "Wow, must have been hard getting in here." Armin nodded. It was. But Jason didn't know how hard. Classes began the next day. The professors spoke fast. The readings were long. Everyone around him seemed to already understand things he had never even heard of. When the professor asked questions, students answered like experts. Armin stayed quiet. He felt lost. In his first class, he opened his notebook but didn't write much. Words flew over his head. For the first time in a long time, he felt stupid again. After class, he went to the library, just like back home. He sat alone, reading, trying to catch up. A week passed, then 2, then 3. One evening, Jason walked into the room and found Armin still awake at 2 a.m., books spread all around him. "Dude, do you ever sleep?" Jason laughed. Armin looked up, tired. "I don't have a choice. I'm trying to survive." Jason paused, then sat beside him. "You're not alone, man. A lot of us feel the same. But if you ever need help, I'm here." That night, something changed. Armin started asking questions in class. He started joining study groups. He made friends, real ones, students from India, Nigeria, China, even a boy from Brazil who called him the machine because he studied so hard. Slowly, Armin began to shine again. One day, in a writing class, the professor read out his essay. "This," she said, "is what storytelling is all about." It was about his journey, from a poor neighborhood in Pakistan to the halls of Harvard. Students clapped. Some even cried. After class, a girl came up to him. "That was the most powerful thing I've ever read. Thank you for sharing your story." But not everything was easy. One cold evening, Armin overheard 2 boys laughing in the hallway. "Did you see his clothes? Looks like he came from a village. Harvard's really lowering its standards." The words hurt, but Armin didn't react. He had learned long ago, silence can be stronger than anger. That weekend, Armin gave a speech at a small campus event. He shared how he was once humiliated for dreaming too big, how his teacher told him Harvard was impossible. He ended with these words: "Dreams don't belong to the rich. They belong to the brave." The video of his speech was recorded and shared online. It went viral again. People from all over the world sent him messages. Students, parents, even teachers. "You give us hope. My son wants to be like you. Thank you for showing that anything is possible." Harvard noticed too. The dean of students called him in. "Armin, your story is inspiring. We'd like to feature you on the university's homepage." Armin was shocked. "Me? Why?" "Because you remind us all why we're here. To dream, to grow, to rise." That night, Armin stood outside his dorm and looked at the stars. The same stars he used to look at from the rooftop of his small house back home. So much had changed, but one thing never did: his fire. He had come far, but the journey was not over. Because now he had to go back to his school, back to his city, to show other boys like him that dreams aren't just for movies. They're for everyone. Part 5 would bring the story full circle. Armin returns home to give others the courage to dream, and finally confronts the one who once crushed his. The school assembly hall was full. Students whispered excitedly. Teachers sat straight. Everyone was waiting. Then the door opened, and Armen walked in. But he didn't walk in like a student. He walked in like a guest of honor. He was older now, taller, confident, wearing a simple black suit. No fancy brands, just pure grace and strength. A banner above the stage read, "Welcome back, Armen Khan, from classroom to Harvard." Everyone clapped as he stepped onto the stage. But Armen's eyes searched the crowd until they stopped. Mr. Qureshi sat in the back row, silent, the same man who once laughed at his dream. Now, he looked down. Armen began to speak. He didn't shout. He didn't cry. He just spoke with truth. "I once stood here, in this very school, and said I wanted to go to Harvard." He paused. Many laughed. Some even said I was foolish. But I didn't give up. He looked around. "Today, I'm not here to say, 'Look at me.' I'm here to say, 'Look at you.'" He pointed to the students. "Every dream you have, no matter how big, it's possible. If someone like me, whose father fixed motorcycles, who studied under a streetlight, who was told he was not good enough, can make it, so can you." Silence. Then, slowly, a few students began to clap. Then more. Then the entire hall stood up, giving him a standing ovation. Even Mr. Qureshi. As Armen walked down from the stage, Mr. Qureshi stood in his path. For a long second, they just looked at each other. Then, Mr. Qureshi extended his hand. "I was wrong," he said quietly, "and I'm proud of you." Armen shook his hand and smiled gently. "Sir, thank you. Because of your doubt, I found my strength." Then he turned to the students, his voice calm but strong. "Now it's your turn." And with that, Armen walked out of the school, not as the boy who was mocked, but as the man who proved the world wrong. Fade out.